Good morning. Jesus asked, "Do you think that I've come to establish peace on earth?" And then he speaks of this great division. And if you think about it, the Jews were awaiting a Messiah to come and first eradicate the Romans, get rid of them, send them back to where they came from, and then to restore the kingdom of Israel to its former glory, and that would be the peace on earth. Of course, Jesus does come, and he wants to bring us his peace, but his peace is not something that we necessarily will have here in this life. It is something that we long for in heaven. He says, there is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it's accomplished. And what is that baptism of which he speaks? It is his death on the cross. And he knows that is coming, and so he says, it causes me such anguish because I know what will happen. We heard, was it 2 weeks ago, when James and John asked Jesus if they can sit at his right and his left, and Jesus says, can you drink from the chalice from which I will drink? Can you be baptized with the baptism with which I'll be baptized, right? He says, can you suffer? And so Jesus says, I tell you, I'm here not to establish peace on the earth, but I tell you rather division. From now on, a household of 5 will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. Now, for some, it's easy to look at that and say, okay, great, that's the justification. I need to be divisive and to cause division in the world and to cause disharmony and disunity. But I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Rather, it's, okay, well, if I do the right thing, if I follow God, if I do his will, it might cause division, and that's something I have to be prepared for, and that's something that I have to be okay with. Because, of course, Jesus is speaking to the Jews, and then also the Gentiles are hearing of his good news. And so for the Jews, within their families, for them to say, well, I'm going to follow Jesus. Well, that's controversial. What do you mean? He claims to be the Messiah, but clearly he's not the Messiah. He doesn't want to establish a kingdom here in Jerusalem. For the Romans and the pagans, they hear that and they say, that's nonsense. This guy's just some, mystic who's spouting nonsense. And it will cause division. And so too today, to do the will of God, even within our families, it causes division. Many of you know that. It's caused division in your own families because you've said, no, I will be faithful, I will do the will of God. That doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. That doesn't take away the sting. In our own community, in our own society, to say, I will do the will of God. I will do the right thing. We look to the saints, especially the martyrs. They say, I will do the right thing. I will follow God. And so division is an unfortunate consequence of people not wanting to do the will of God. It shouldn't be an excuse for us to say, I'm going to go out and cause division. No, we should try to create unity. We should try to create harmony. Not at the expense of the truth, not at the expense of our values, not at the expense of making other people feel good. We shouldn't just kind of, go along to get along like our world likes to do. But rather, we should continually ask ourselves, how can I do that which is right? How can I do the will of God? How can I seek the truth? And how can I call others to the truth? Because even if there has been division, even if there has been father against son, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, how can I go out and reach out for reconciliation? Please come to the truth. That's what Christ desires because he himself is the truth incarnate. He calls us to be united with him. I've come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. He wishes to set the earth on fire with the fire of our souls that burn out of zeal and ardor and love for him, so that we may transform this world. We know that we can't create heaven here on earth. We know that we can't completely establish God's kingdom here. We can have a foreshadow of God's kingdom, but there will always be evil. There will always be those who desire to work against God. I'm thinking of that silly song, Let Us Build a City of God. It's a silly song because it's very selfish. So yeah, we're going to build the city of God. We can do it ourselves. We don't need God's help to build his own city. And we're going to build it here on earth, not in heaven. That's foolish. But to trust in the will of God. And when we do that, yeah, that can be divisive, right? Because we say, no, we don't have all the power. We don't have all the control. Only God does. Only God can establish his kingdom. Only God can establish his peace. Only God can establish his reign. We can be instruments through which he works, but it's not for us to establish his kingdom. And in the end, this world will fade away, and his kingdom will be in heaven. And it is that we prepare for. We prepare ourselves for eternity with God. So let us allow the Lord to set our hearts ablaze so that we may burn with love for him, that we may seek to call those back from division, but also that if there is division and there is no hope of reconciliation, that we shake the dust from our sandals and we move on to the next town. And so Christ desires to set the earth on fire. Let us allow him to continue to use us as instruments so that he may do just that, and so that he may spread his gospel to all who need to hear it.